Hi, I'm Akhil.
And everyone.
Welcome to The Long Take. This week we're discussing the new Indian Netflix movie Bhakshak, which stars Bhumi Pednekar in the lead and is produced by Shah Rukh Khan's Red Series. Actually, the first time they've given a movie to Netflix, I think in 4 years, if I'm not wrong. Even though that deal is dead, they've found their way back to their parent. What do you make of this movie, Nolan?
I don't really have any strong opinions about it. It's one of those movies that you watch and you're like, whatever. Like, I don't really hate it, nor do I like it much.
Right. Yeah, I think I'm not sure I would say in the hate camp, but yeah, I'm pretty sure in the dislike category at least. Just given the movie's like incessant desire to shout in your face.
Yeah, I mean, it does that. It is very like mainstream Bollywood, but then,
It feels like Jawan spin-off at times.
but just, I mean, I remember like for the first half at least, like the first hour of it, I was into it.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was quite restrained, which is why the second half is almost like alienating. It feels like a different movie altogether, right?
Yeah, this is a very much a movie made for the theater. There's a clear demarcation.
Yeah, which is strange because the first half was actually quite meticulously done. Like it wasn't, nobody was really yelling, and the character felt like a real person. And even her right hand man, the guy played by Sanjay Mishra, felt like, oh, he has like a whole life behind him. And I was leaning in, I was into it. But then something happened, like it just became too like plot focused all of a sudden, and there were way too many people involved, and the cop comes, and I'm like, I'm losing interest in it. And then by the end, I was just like, I don't care anymore.
Yeah, essentially the movie sort of wraps like it doesn't wrap, I would say, but it sort of covers a big chunk in the first half in terms of like her professional and her personal life, right? Her personal life is like almost like given like an afterthought because I think they wrap it up, 34 minutes in. She just gives like this monologue to her husband's face, and they're like, yeah, this is the moment we're just done with this. We might come back to this for like 1 or 2 lines. And I was just like, isn't that too early? Like, is this a short film? What is happening here? And then they cover like the whole like prime witness thing and what she went through before the half, right? It's not like as a reveal for the second half. It's just like it's covered, and they're like, that's not the story. The story is like, how is she gonna convince everyone, or like how is she gonna get the story out there, or how is she gonna actually gonna solve this? Like, so that's interesting in that structural sense. I think my main problem over and over was the fact that it's almost like I felt they didn't have an understanding of like just like filmmaking beats of what it takes to make like a thriller out of like someone trying to dig into just like data mostly or like what's out there and not really having like things to go by, or sometimes even like I guess which is basically a mix of not having an understanding of filmmaking or journalism.
See, again, I think I wouldn't go so far as to say that primarily because this movie is about journalism, and not in the sense that journalism is like the secondary or tertiary kind of element about the story. It's like that's the primary thing, right? The process of it is the primary thing, which I really can't remember what the last movie was that did that, right? Where it's following a person and not like we've seen it happen in like those television shows, right, where there's like this
the journalist is sometimes like the fourth character or whatever in the story.
Yeah, like with the scam, or like Shriya Mantri has played like I think 2 of those people.
Yeah, she's mostly the second. Yeah, I think you're talking about like the Mumbai Diaries also. Yeah, so then it's not a very great portrayal.
Exactly. So that's what we our also in terms of just stereotypes.
Yeah,
here it's this person who is like almost like a lone wolf, right? So it's in part also like you're right, it's like Jawan, like in the way that it's like almost a vigilante movie where she kind of weaponizes her skills to like almost become like an activist sort of person.
Yeah.
And I thought that was she's an interesting character. And I mostly enjoyed just the boring bits, the stuff that other movies would cut out, stuff like that. You're just doing the due diligence, going to those places, figuring out who the people are, all that stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned due diligence because like I sort of, my stumbling block initially when that day, it starts with like a random dude dropping a report in her lab, right? Like who basically like has access to insider knowledge. And I was like, why is she never like going to the source? Like, why is she never like asking that institute, that fictional whatever rendering of the Tata Institute? Like, why does she never ever call them up? And that's the report that lands in her hand, which she's initially skeptical about. She's like, you might have given me fake news. How do I know this is true? And that's the report she takes everywhere, to the child welfare office, to other places. But like she questions everyone who she can see around being her. But she never like rings up the very people who produce the report.
Yeah. It's very selective, obviously. Yeah, it's like, oh, यहाँ से मुझे ये मिलेगा, and then she also like just goes ahead and like, I don't know, does the Ravish thing without really corroborating anything, like a couple of times in the first half. Like,
no, I guess on some level I might be more forgiving about that, just because you've seen me, like, shown me a local journalist who doesn't really have resources, who doesn't have a lot of reach. So I'm willing to, I think, accept. And the way like she's shown, it's like her like social circle or whatever, or her like where she's from, I would assume she hasn't had that kind of training. She hasn't had access to resources. It's almost like a citizen journalist trying to figure out everything for herself. Right?
No, in that way, it's a lot like Writing with Fire. I don't know if you watched that movie.
I have, yeah. It's a set in UP and like follows, I forget the organization's name. That's even a step further, because I don't think she's Vaishali Singh, so she's obviously not like from an OBC or ST class. But like, that movie is about, I think, about Dalit journalists, right? If I'm not wrong. I think Khabar Lahariya. Yeah.
Khabar Lahariya, yes.
Popped into my head.
Yeah. But it was similar, right? It was, in a way, it's almost like an origin story for these characters. It's not like they were built to be activist journalists.
And they weren't trying to be, right? That person thought they weren't even trying to be a journalist. There's probably one or two of them who have like, knowledge of like even using phones. And then they almost like, they find women who are like, who they think like can be champions. Sometimes they don't even want to be. Like, there are women there who are like, I don't know how to do any of this. What are you trying to do? And they make like reporters. You can see like, how like sometimes reporters come from like very unexpected sources. But this is, I would say, a different situation, because this person is like, has wanted to be a journalist for a long time, has their own channel on TV, which was slightly surprising to me that you can afford a TV channel with two people. But I guess I'll let that.
I just assumed for the longest time it was a YouTube channel or a Facebook thing.
No, but they were flipping through like channel numbers, and she says, Patna mein 602 pe hai, yahan pe ye. I was like, wait, it's a TV channel. Who are your advertisers?
Which
but
is one of the confusing
things.
things.
Slide, because I'm like, maybe she's only on local TV, right? I'm willing to give that movie, give the movie that. But I think, it's finally just like the presentation of it. Like, I think because of the films I've seen, I was expecting like a spotlight or like the report style, treatment, where you like, the person digs into like, the evidence of it, the witness statements, and makes a case through that, which like, and it's not like that is the actual story. It's not that I'm making that up. That is the actual story of like eventually what happened when the news went national. But like, yeah, sure, you can retcon that and make it like the local story. It's not like Vaishali Singh has a real life individual out there anyway, at least not I could find. But the movie, I don't know, it seems confused and sometimes what it wants to actually tackle.
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, but I had no expectations. Like, this is like a Red Chillies Netflix thing. So my expectations were like rock bottom.
And it's clearly like offloaded, because from what I've read, it was like completed filming like 2 years ago.
Well, this one, yeah.
Yeah. So, and I could not find any mention of reshoots anywhere. So unless they did it like in a secret manner where they put like, like how Julia Louis-Dreyfus was done in Marvel, like put hoods on everyone and bring them to set.
Anything's possible, but this one, इसमें थोड़ा बहुत politics तो है ही, and I could have very easily imagined many
Netflix's
more like
lawyers like going through every scene.
Yeah, especially this movie has a lot, like it has a lot of real life parallels as well, and it almost
it is literally inspired by a true story. So yeah, there are obviously real life parallels, and then itself is based on a real life.
Yeah, no, I meant like the finer details of it, right? Just
okay, sorry.
Like something like the government funding advertising, even forget like national media, but like even hyperlocal media like this.
Yeah, that's totally believable. Like the whole like that, hey, that's how he's living, that he's just a con man on every front. He's running a girl shelter home to like for his personal reasons. And by personal reasons, I mean sexual abuse. And by one professional side, as you said, he's scamming the government with the help of his government friends.
Yeah. So these are like really the thing about what gets kind of buried in this movie because of all the stuff that's happening is like these people are not just the journalists, they're the protagonist of the movie. Even the villain is like a small town, like it's like a he's not really a influential figure, you know. He's someone who's like powerful in like a 5 kilometer radius, basically.
Right.
And what this movie kind of doesn't, I mean, it touches on this topic but doesn't exactly communicate it well, is that even people like this who really don't have much power can be so like damaging in a way that
I don't know if he
goes under the
eventually gets sued for this, but like he's a mini version of that guy who's been like dogged by all the wrestlers in India.
who? Oh yeah, the guy, yeah.
Yeah, like he's basically a mini version of that. Like he has enough connections to stay like wherever he is, right? No one's touching him because he has enough connection. Who has a connection? Who has a connection?
No, but that guy is a major politician, you know.
Yeah,
He's like a
that guy
MLA
has,
or
like,
something.
I think what I've known, like he has access to like multiple, like dozens of seats are like influenced by him. So yeah, as I said, a very mini version of him.
Very many. And that's the irony. Like even like itne small level pe, someone can get away with, you know, such horrific crime.
Yeah, if they can get away on the national stage in front of everyone with every like corner of the media going after you, like it's not even a case of, you know, like people are trying to whitewash you as happens today in today's media. This is like someone who is getting constantly attacked and still like essentially staying in the spotlight.
Yeah. So all that, like some of the ideas in this movie I kind of appreciate. Like the movie is kind of trying to tell a story about, you know, India as a country through this very hyper local.
Oh yeah, totally. I think I would totally give like those 2 points to the movie, is that it has its heart in the right place, and it's definitely, as you said, it could be considered a microcosm of the country, right? So, but like, if I just say it's a movie about people who have no one, who have been like the very system that they entrusted themselves with, who was supposed to protect them, have now been abusing them. Like that applies to like how many people?
But then you're right. It's just the telling of it is a little muddled, not a little muddled, काफी muddled, where you're just like, acha, ab kya, what are we focusing on now? Because you kind of really, I mean, either take a character first approach, right? Just focus on this one woman and present everything through her point of view, which the movie doesn't do either, you know. And then there's the Sanjay Mishra character who is, it feels like there would be more to do for him, but then there isn't really.
Yeah, like he's eventually his biggest win in the movie is like pretending to be like someone else and causing chaos.
Yeah, which I liked. I liked some of the performance also, but then just everything just gets a little lost. Every aspect of this movie.
Also for me, what like got lost is the fact, I think the movie, like with like, this is essentially a thriller. It's just like a thriller in a different sense. No one's getting involved or anything. It's just like a journalistic thriller. But you have to like build momentum, right? The scene that comes, like just filmmaking actually in general, is that the scene that comes has to build on the one previous. But I feel like this movie has like a very huge like stop-start energy, right? So that you have like a good scene, as you mentioned, with like Bhaskar in that state government or whatever office and like racking up chaos. But then like what comes after that, like as you said, like it just, the momentum is seeped out.
Yeah. The movie does that. I mean, for me, though, it happened halfway mark, which felt like a very clear interval moment also, which I'm wondering if this was ever intended to, or that's just the writing style that these people use.
No, I'm pretty sure if it's something that's been sitting in the can for 2 years, there were ambitions to put this on the big screen. For whatever reasons, we don't know. It did not materialize. And eventually they were like, who did we used to be good friends with?
But it does. It kind of stops and then starts again. And then it's just like, I was also a little confused by the sheer number of like villains and henchmen. Like,
I
don't
keep track of them. I know Sonu, because Sonu has said a lot, but I couldn't point them out if you put them in a lineup.
Exactly. So towards the end, I'm not really sure what happens if everybody gets caught or if just one person gets caught.
No, I think there's a line which they like that's the problem with this also, the movie, is because I feel like there is more to this movie, with like I've like read through the reporting now and I'm like, wow, you left so much of it out. But like one line towards the end says that one of the henchmen, which like we're not able to distinguish, now coming to me, is also like the head of the CWC, the Child Welfare Committee. So
yeah, the guy was drunk
it's the people. Yeah. The guy who's drunk is who actually gets like spooked the first and he's gonna leave. So that guy is basically gonna exonerate his own people, right? It's basically a case of like Me Too in India.
Okay. Oh, so the movie was deliberately trying to make a point about like these.
Yeah,
people.
that's how the system is set up against you. Is that, you know, like in the real life, like I think the main accused and a lot of around them have, I think they appealed their life imprisonment or whatever. but they still are right now in prison. But I think what they couldn't ever prove, which I think the movie couldn't really make the connection properly or couldn't land properly, is that they couldn't never prove that someone was killed. Only prove sexual abuse, which is why, because the guys in charge are like, the reports have to go through them, and they're just like, no, there's no evidence for this.
Acha. So this is again like this is just in a nutshell this movie's entire problem, right? Where you just get confused, "Ye wo banda hai kaun?" And that
Like,
really impacts
yeah,
what you kind of take away from it, like major plot points and major like resolutions I don't understand only. And I'm wondering, is this the same guy? Even
right, yeah.
and that's partially because I'm not really invested, which is also the movie's fault. It's not my fault. But
Yeah, if you're not invested, like, I don't know, for anyone who enjoys reading, at least I know you do, but if anyone who enjoys like long form reading, you should check out the Caravan's coverage on this, which I think it's like either 5 or 6 parts. And that feels like you could just copy that onto like non-fiction wise as a 5-part like, documentary thriller. And if someone can do that well, that would be insanely like detailed, insanely detailed and obviously better.
yeah, but this, like you said, this movie kind of gets like kind of sidetracked by all the grandstanding and like dialogue bars,
Yeah, like which I just
feels
felt
a
like
little-
belongs in a more like, like I think it's slightly more digestible in a more blockbuster movie, right? Like-
yeah, this might actually be a case of like post-production nonsense because because it definitely feels like two different movies stitched together. There's stops and starts, there's an interval point, there is a difference in tone, there are too many characters. It reeks of change karna padega kuch na kuch banane ke baad, but who knows.
The only people who actually probably know is like people on Netflix or I guess Red Chilies, who are not willing to show us like the stuff they've cut out. Because like even curiously, like, like you just expect, I think the way things are written to like the interval to come at the halfway mark, but I noticed it does not come at exactly the halfway mark. So yeah, like I thought he was just grasping at like tiny clues, right? Because we have nothing concrete to latch onto in this industry.
Yeah. Anyway, it's kind of like unfortunate that the rare movie that kind of has its head screwed on straight and wants
Exactly,
to
right?
actually
Like,
talk about.
that's, I think, in a way almost infuriates me more. Go on.
Yeah, no, that's the thing, right? Because this story is very few people are going to even attempt to tell it, right? And
Exactly.
especially
More and more in today's like environment, I feel like. I was
especially
surprised
in
that this, like, someone was like greenlighting this stuff in like 2021 or something, like, go write this. And it's all like, yeah, go make this in 2022. I was like, who thought of these things?
And yeah, you got like Red Chilies, and then that's like as big as it gets. It's almost like the Bobby Deol movie, which not Class of 83, but the other one that I really like. Oh my God, Love Hostel. Yeah. That one. It just slips under the radar, and that movie, like this one, is a much better movie. But both these movies kind of talk about real issues, serious issues, and not issues that many others are willing to. But for different reasons, they're just. I mean, I'm pretty sure this one's not going to like suddenly become like a rage or anything. But yeah, it's kind of sad, but like probably not going to think about it after today.
Yeah, that's like, and in a way, it annoys me more. I think I was going to say 2 minutes back is the fact that when you actually take something worthwhile, it's like even more important that you hire the, like, I mean, yeah, I'm not saying in front of the camera, but like behind the camera, you hire the people who can like do it justice, because then you just like severely let down. You're like, oh, we get so few opportunities to actually like see, not just like good cinema, but like good cinema put to like a good cause also, or like a worthwhile cause. I wouldn't say good cause. And then you're just like, great. On to the next one, maybe 4 more years.
Yeah. Chalo, I guess. That's about it.
That's it then.
Yeah.
Okie dokie. That's all for this episode of The Long Take. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Threads at The Long Take Pod. You can write to us at thelongtakepod@gmail.com. Please leave us a rating and a review wherever this episode, and we will see you next week. Thanks for listening.